All right, welcome to Two Sons Podcast. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy NBA Finals are over. Dude. And finally, the working almost every night for 2 months is finally over. My wife will very much appreciate it. But my wife's actually out of town for next week.
So boys' night tonight.
So it's going to be some Two Sons Podcast the next 2 nights. We're covering House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 1 tonight. I also have a little bit of a take at the end of the show based around the Acolyte, and then we're doing Acolyte episode 4 tomorrow night, which should be fun. So lots of content. I want to say this too, like I know that you're still kind of like a Game of Thrones virgin as we're trying to kind of expose you a little bit, because he's only seen House of the Dragon season 1. He has not seen any of the Game of Thrones stuff. But like, I don't think there's any television show out there right now, or even movie, that is doing it as well as Game of Thrones is right now. The acting, the scale, the cultural resonance. Like, as I was watching the first episode last night, I was like, this is just... I know there's some things that drive you nuts with the overly violent stuff, but like, I'm so glad Game of Thrones is back.
Dude, I cannot lie. It's really good. It honestly is.
The acting to me, just they bring so much weight to everything. And one of the things I appreciate about Game of Thrones is they can really take the time to like go through story development through format, which is something I appreciate, because I was talking about this with my producer Ryan today. Like, you can do something like have long conversations that take 7 minutes of screen time that serve no purpose other than to build out characters and to make you realize. And like, honestly, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but I thought I rewatched season 1 with Carly over the course of the last month or so. And like, when you really think of it, like, this is the war. The war started when Vhagar, with Aemond as his rider, just chomped Luke's dragon, Lucerys Velarion's dragon, and just obliterates him. And then suddenly it's wild. Like, we're going to war, right? Yep. Like, it's happening. It's going down. But like, the entire first season serves a very specific purpose, which is like, why would a bunch of relatives, like, why would a family split on itself and kill each other? Because like, as is kind of Game of Thrones custom, everyone will die.
As soon as you like them,
dies.
They'll die. Oh, there's a cute little kid. No, he gets his head sawed off with a butter knife.
Everyone dies. So like, you have to like, there has to be a believability, like an inevitability, like a we have no choice but to kill everybody kind of like groundwork that you have to lay. Yeah. And I thought they did a really good job. And for the record, we talked about this with the Acolyte, but like, that's why you have to kind of give shows some time to breathe at the beginning, when they're trying to establish themselves. Right.
No, and you're totally right. Like, when you're talking about having lengthy scenes of two characters just talking, just to kind of show the vibe between the two characters. I thought about Lady Hightower, Alicent, and Otto, and their conversation regarding how Otto is treating her when she's around the king, and how she didn't feel like she was respected and stuff. And like, that was a pretty lengthy conversation just for her to say, "Hey, show me some respect."
Yeah. And like this guy's super impressionable right now, and we can't just keep which is, and we're going to talk about Aegon, because I find Aegon to be a very fascinating king compared to all of the other kings I've seen.
He's definitely all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's talk with the big reveal in this show. So basically we get the kind of small council meeting for the Reds, where Rhaenyra, just in basically a blind what's the word I'm looking for? Like
rage.
Like
blindness.
a rage, but it's fueled by grief, like a grief-fueled rage, says, "I want Aemon Targaryen," right? Yeah. And obviously, like, Daemon ends up finding a way to infiltrate the castle.
Just being the best husband uncle you could have.
Like, of all of the husbands/uncles out there,
just top notch.
Just the loyalty is
really good, really good guy.
So he goes in against Rhaenyra's will. And now I think it was a little bit of like a phone tag thing, or not a phone tag, but like what's the game, telephone, where you whisper the message along the line. It was like, Rhaenyra's like, "I want you to kill Aemon." So then Daemon goes to the next guy like, "I want you to kill Daemon," and then they're like, "We can't find Daemon. Let's kill this guy instead." It's like, and so they end up killing this. And I thought they went to a lot of detail.
The sun for the
to
sun
show. I thought they went to a lot of detail showing how like Aegon is very much like kind of more focused on being a father than being a king.
Right.
I thought that was kind of intentional. And he clearly is very much like involved with Jaehaerys, which is his oldest son. He brings him to the small council meeting.
Right.
Like they're talking about all of the alliances that are taking place in this war that's about to take place, and he's like watching his kid play with Tywin Lannister. I think. Yeah, Tywin Lannister's like little kind of communication ball thing, right?
Communication ball.
The ball that serves some purpose.
He's like, how about you be a pony for my boy? And everyone's like, oh, could we not do that?
Yeah. And he was like straight up going to have him
I know, dude. You're talking about his character. It's really odd, right? Because obviously he's just the biggest F boy ever, right? Mm. And then on the other side of it, he's like, "Oh yeah, little sheep man, you can have your sheep back, your shippus."
Yeah,
you know. He's like, "Yeah, whatever you need, we can give that back to you."
I know. He's like, "Fuckboy."
Yeah, I know. It's like he's like literally all over the place. Like he doesn't know what to do. It's probably because he's super young, right? Like he's like still impressionable, like what you're talking about. But then he's also just a giant piece of shit.
Yeah, I find him to be very fascinating compared to other kings in NBA.
Dude, you got NBA on the brain, huh?
I had a lot of NBA history related comments tonight. Okay, but like the in Game of Thrones history, it's like there's a lot of different kinds of kings that you see, and one of the recurring types of kings is like the fucking crazy evil person. It's like
the inbred
the mad
crazy
king,
person,
the Mad King Aerys. That was Joffrey, right? Like that was Cersei, right? Like but then you have these benevolent great kings, like that was the King Jaehaerys, the one that died before Viserys took over, the main king from season 1, right? Viserys himself, a benevolent king, albeit one that was kind of weak, and we can get into that a little bit later. But like, and then even extending to like Tommen Baratheon in game. Luke doesn't even know who I'm mentioning, but Tommen Baratheon, Joffrey's little brother, who takes over as king after Joffrey dies, like he's this benevolent type of king, and like so we have all these like benevolent kings and then like evil kings. This is the first like just incompetent immature king. Like he's just a kid who likes to drink and fuck. Like he likes to hang with his buddies. Like he's chilling in the throne room.
And he's just a proud father.
Yeah. Like chilling in the throne room, legs kicked up, like just drinking with his buddies around.
Yeah, I know. That was interesting too.
Did you notice his buddies have like a rapport with him to where like they don't talk to him like he's a king. They talk to him like he's their buddy.
Yeah, that was interesting to see. Yeah, behind closed doors. And because very like right before that, when he's being introduced to like the council or whatever it was, the same guy that was giving him crap when he was like had his feet kicked up, it was like very procedural, right?
Oh,
like,
the one who introduced him?
Yeah.
And he's like magnanimous.
I know, magnanimous. He's like, that guy. Funny. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I find him to be a very interesting king, right? And so what is super fascinating is he's so disconnected and just kind of doesn't give a shit about anything. And for those of you guys who watched after the episode was over, after the credits, they go and they show you like the preview of the following week, right? And like he flies off the fucking handle in this, like he's like, I declare war, I want to kill all of it, all this stuff. And so like what?
Oh yeah, because his son was just killed.
His son just got murdered.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And so like he's gonna snap and go crazy, which I find I
can only bet,
because like he almost strikes me as a character who's never cared about anything before.
Well, he's probably never had any true hardships until now.
Exactly. And so like this is so he
eating off the golden spoon or whatever the saying is.
And so he becomes a super fascinating character now because like he's like a little unstable, has a ton of power. Like one of the other things too, he was manipulatable or malleable.
Yeah.
Because he didn't care. Like I wonder how him suddenly caring will affect like all of the relationships around him.
Yeah,
you know?
they're probably gonna get jacked up. Yeah.
So anyway, that's the main kind of like crux of the story, and I knew that was coming because like if any of you guys who've read up on the Dance of Dragons, like it's bang bang off the top. It's like it's Aemond kills Lucerys, and then they immediately infiltrate the castle and kill the heir. Like it happens, bang bang. Everyone hates each other now. Everyone's going to war, which to me is like the foundation.
Everyone has to find their purpose, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's got to find their
hatred. Why do I hate the other person? Oh, that's right.
And like in the first 11 episodes of House of the Dragon have done a wonderful job of making you understand why the world needs to burn to settle this conflict.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Obviously so. So. Were there any like scenes that like really stood out to you this go around this episode?
I loved the right off the top so like they do this with Star Wars too, where it's like there's like a Vader song, there's like a Tatooine song, there's like a Luke song, there's like all these different songs that air at like different parts of the different like kind of themes, right?
Right.
And like there's this song, this like it's kind of like a violin, but there's this song that plays when you're in the North, and like obviously the North is heavily featured in Game of Thrones because like that's kind of the more direct storyline centering around the White Walkers, right? And so that song is just like, it just makes you think of Winterfell and it makes you think of the North, and like I love how like the level of detail that's gone into, you know, the cultures and how they're different. Like one of the things about Game of Thrones is like the people in the North, they are fiercely loyal. Like they will never go back on an oath. And so what I find fascinating is like as everyone's kind of trying to make sides, it's like you have the West and there's Tywin Lannister, who is getting rich by virtue of the High Towers and now has a spot on the small council. So like he kind of controls that entire region. Everyone will fall in line behind him, right? Yeah. You've got the North, which is like the Erie, which is like a region that's kind of on the eastern coastline, and then you have the North that's up by where the Wall is. Those two groups, fiercely loyal to whatever oaths they take, they both immediately agree to serve when Jacaerys goes to visit them. But then you've got like this kind of like weird area around King's Landing that's kind of up for grabs, and the Baratheons, who typically are pretty loyal, their leader, who can't read, I don't know if you remember that from the end of season 1, but their leader is like, what are you going to offer me? And Aemond offers marriage. And so the big kind of like swing there is like the Baratheons are going to be going with the Greens, it looks like here, because they have a marriage pact in place. And so like you can kind of see the line starting to get drawn. And it's like the Reds kind of have more dragons, but the Greens kind of have more like ground forces, you know, and like it kind of like they're doing a really good job laying out like the politics of it. You know what I mean?
That line that was said when they were up on the wall, and he's like, "My ancestors didn't build this 700-foot wall to keep snow and wildlanders out." Yeah, I thought that was a really cool. Cool.
You know why it's cool?
Yeah, because the White Walkers.
Yeah,
I know what those are.
About that. You wouldn't know shit about that. I sent Luke that like that meme where it's like I admire the people that never watched a single episode of Game of Thrones. They can't be affected by anything. They're just completely immune.
Cheers to all my fellow people. I wonder how many of our viewers like haven't seen this and are just gonna watch it, you know, just to hang. If you're there, just put yourself out in the comment, please, because I'm being forced to watch this show.
He's being forced.
It breaks my heart.
Yes, but he's doing a great job. I appreciate the effort. So, all right, let's go down the list a little bit. So, we talked about Krieg and Stark. I thought that scene was cool. Daemon is just kind of a loose cannon because like he, remember at the beginning is like, come on, Rhaenys, like we're just gonna go kill Vhagar. Like let's go. We're gonna go do this right now. It's like, bro, you're not even in charge.
Yeah, no, we're good. I'm gonna go hang out.
I need to chill.
I was just writing.
To feast and rest, and so does my dragon, right? But like he also is the one who, against Rhaenyra's will, goes in and facilitates the murder of Jaehaerys, right?
A small boy.
What's interesting about that is like one of the other scenes that we saw in the preview for episode 2 is Rhaenyra's going to be pissed at Daemon. She's going to be really fucking mad at him.
Yeah.
For good reason, because he's just like he's fucking crazy.
Well, and something awful happened. Like that was not their intent, you know. And that's like. It's like one mistake followed by another mistake, and that's essentially what Game of Thrones is. That's essentially what the plot of Outer Banks is, if you've ever watched that show. You know, like it's literally just a big shitstorm that occurs just because of bad decisions, you know, and that just, I was thinking of Outer Banks when I was watching that, and I was like, that fell apart pretty quick. It fell apart as about as quickly as it could.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
The rat guy was like, oh, we need to kill someone, and he just grabs a little kid.
Yeah, and they didn't even like they were like just guessing. They're like, we think that's the boy. They both look very similar. Then, I'm like, this could have been so bad.
This is gonna sound really weird, but like, if you're concerned if it's the boy or the girl, like you might just have to check.
Yeah, and they mentioned they were going to.
I know, and they're like, no, that's too weird. Let's just kill one.
Let's believe the crazy chick.
Right. I know. Like that was bizarre. bizarre,
dude.
Absolutely bizarre.
It was super, super weird, and like, and honestly, like, like there was that scene. You remember where Otto Hightower was like, when Alicent was like, he made a huge mistake. He went and killed Rhaenyra's son, and like Otto's like, oh, it's just a young guy making a mistake. I know. Like it's just. I'm like, just started a war,
dude. I know, and he can't handle it too. What's his name with the patch? Patches. What's his name?
Aemond. Yeah.
Aemond is just a little shithead too.
You
know
like
what
him.
I mean? You do?
Okay,
dude. I'm having a hard time with him.
So
there's things that are likable about him, right?
So
like,
obviously
he's kind of a badass. Let's just put that out there.
Okay.
And he definitely, beats to his own drum. He doesn't really give a crap about what other people expect of him or want from him. He just kind of does his thing, which in that universe, you kind of have to have that. But still, he's also just like an angsty little teenager too, where he's like, Grandpa and Mom like are mad at me, and therefore they're idiots, And it's just like, dude, grow up. You're an idiot. You accidentally killed, Luke and started a war.
Yeah.
Like take some responsibility.
He's had a lot of fuck ups. There's no doubt. He was also in season 1. He was the guy that like started shit with the Valerian kids and ended up getting his eye cut out.
That's right.
And he was like literally gonna kill Lucerys then, and he ended up actually killing Lucerys later.
Yeah, that's
like
right. I forgot about that.
He was being crazy. Yeah, he was the one that like at the dinner table when Viserys was like having this great night with everybody.
I know. It was like one of his last nights on Earth. Everything's perfect, and then he just ruins it.
And then Aemon stands up and starts talking shit to the like, dude. They were like, Aemon's definitely like an antagonist, but like, so to me, the two most interesting like male characters in the show from the standpoint of like badasses are Aemond and Daemon.
Yeah,
like, they're the two.
I agree with
what
you
they kind of fit the mold of for me is like, the Targaryens. They're kind of like these exceptional humans, right? Like they're these like powerful dragon riders, right? Like they straight up refer to Aemond as their best sword. Like Aegon calls him that. So he's like, you're literally our best fighter that we have is Aemond, right? Like there's between Aegon the Conqueror, the original Targaryen that conquered the 7 kingdoms. There's all these badass women too in the family, like Aegon's sister wives. they did an amazing job. Rhaenyra, like Daenerys in the actual Game of Thrones show. But there's also these strong male characters, right? Like there's Aegon the Conqueror. There's Daemon Targaryen. There's Aemond kind of fits into that mold. There's a major character like that in Game of Thrones who actually ends up dying. I can't remember who kills him, but he dies in battle, and it's I want to say it was I think it was Robert Baratheon, but one of the people in Robert's rebellion ends up killing Rhaegar, which is Daenerys Targaryen's older brother. He was viewed as like this big kind of like force of nature type of man in the Targaryen family. And then the other side of that coin is there's like a bunch of like crazy psycho Targaryens. And that's not like the whole like the Targaryens, every time a Targaryen's born they flip a coin or whatever because there's all the incest. so like they're all either like little shits that are assholes or they're like these fierce warriors. And so to me, Aegon the Second and Aemond are like the two sides of that coin. Yeah. And to me, Aemond rides the biggest dragon alive, which is Vhagar, or at least the biggest rideable dragon that's alive. He's the best sword for the Greens. Like,
he's a badass.
He's like, there's these scenes of like him and Criston Cole. Like, and Criston Cole, as we learned from season 1, is like the only knight that serves the 7 kingdoms who actually like has battle experience. So like Criston Cole and Aemon Targaryen are kind of like game planning the war. Yeah.
That scene was really cool too. And then Otto catches them essentially and is upset about it. Like right after he was talking trash about Otto.
But it makes some sense though. Like those two guys, it's like, here's our most powerful. These are two of our most powerful like military people that we have. And it seems to me like from a tactics standpoint, everyone keeps talking about the Riverlands, and the Riverlands are basically like this gap of land that divides the southern part of the continent from the top part of the continent. And if like you can control that, you can control everything.
Dude,
right?
It sucks to be the Riverlands.
Yeah, it sucks to be. The Riverlands are going to burn. There's going to be a lot of
just like right in between the giant storms that are brewing. Yeah, that sucks.
There was a interesting line in the preview for episode 2 where I want to say I can't remember who says it. I think it's Aegon. It might have been Aemond, but one of the main characters basically says like, we've given the war over to the dragons. And like, that's kind of the thing that is super fascinating about this is like these men and women are engaging in this war, but like none of them actually have the power that the dragons have.
Yeah.
And when the dragons get involved, just like everybody dies. You know what I mean? And I do find that fascinating.
That's what everyone's lining up for, though. You know what I mean? Like that's the big reveal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Viserys, I think it was Viserys that said it, but like he basically said in season 1, I think it was Viserys, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but like one of them basically says something along the lines of like, we should never have fucked with the dragons. Like
it's like nuclear bombs.
Yeah. But that's actually, it's a great example of what we're talking about. Like, if there was a conflict that took place between two world powers and it went nuclear, like, nobody wins.
Catastrophic, yeah.
Nobody wins.
Right.
And that's kind of what's interesting about the Dance of Dragons is it's like, the war makes sense. You understand why they want to kill each other, but, like, they're going to end up killing everybody as a result.
Just an absolute storm, man.
Yeah, just an absolute storm. So, let's see if there's any... we have... yeah, I thought the small council meeting when Jaehaerys was like playing around in the background, I thought all of that was intentional to try to like lay the groundwork for why Aegon flies off the handle after this episode.
Well, it makes sense because they had to show that he had a relationship, and that was like a true loss, right? So that was obviously intentional writing, but it was good writing, I thought. So
there was a really interesting scene I know you had to take about it. So like there's this interesting scene from Rhaenys where she basically says like, I found out about, I think it was my daughter's death, you know, from a raven. And I had to like see her remains to like begin the process of grieving her. And then basically Rhaenyra has to go off and find the remains before she can do that.
Yeah.
And then there's this really cool scene where, because if you remember, the three main swing factors were the Baratheons, the Eyrie, and in the north, right? The Baratheons live in the Stormlands. So the Stormlands, the Eyrie, and the north. And she sends Luke to the Stormlands. She sends Jace to the Eyrie and to the north. And he comes back and he's like, "Mom, I have secured the 2,000 men from the north as well."
Right.
But you can just tell like
he's just heartbroken.
He's just heartbroken. And there's this really cool moment between Jace and Rhaenyra.
Out of all of so I've seen some Game of Thrones, right? Not much, but some.
You saw like the first
very,
season,
very little. Yeah. And then I saw the first season of House of the Dragon, right? And that scene, I can tell you, was actually my favorite out of everything. Like it was just a really cool moment between like a son and a mom after the loss of their brother, right? Or his brother, her son. And like the way that was also written was super interesting to me because when you're royalty and when so much is riding on your family's shoulders, like everything probably feels like very procedural, right? So he was off on a mission and his mission was over. So he's coming back to talk to his leader essentially about what he had done. And that was like the first thing that he was trying to do. And like he just couldn't get it out without breaking down. And the way that scene was portrayed was very powerful in my opinion.
No, I agree. And like one of the things that I find fascinating about this entire war is like it is not a political fight. Like it began as one. It began like Otto Hightower started the war. He started the war when he refused to accept Rhaenyra as the heir, and he sent his own damn daughter to basically like manipulate the king into marrying her and creating male heirs that ended up but like the Hightowers did this. Like they started
and then Alicent, she was a little bit naive, but she was listening to the king on his deathbed and she was like, "Oh yeah, like he wants us to be in charge."
I think she was I think she knew.
Oh, you think so?
She knew. I think because I went back and rewatched it and like that scene, it was one of those like Rorschach tests where like he didn't say anything clear.
Right.
She just was like, "That means what I want it to mean." Right.
Like it was. No, you're right. That's a good take. He could have said something completely off the handle, and she would have forgotten that and then listened to what she thought she heard. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I find fascinating is like that part of the show, it was very like politically oriented. It was the Greens wanting power, right? And whereas Rhaenyra was like, "I'm the rightful heir." My dad reaffirmed me at multiple points in time, like I am the heir. Like this is my kingdom, right? And like, there's even like this kind of moment where Alicent and Rhaenyra are both very hesitant to actually go to war. Mm-hmm. So for instance, Rhaenyra, when there's this really cool moment at the end of season 1, and you may or may not remember it, but there's this really cool moment where Corlys Velaryon gets back from his war in the Stepstones, and he goes like, he's asking, Rhaenys, like, what's going on down there, and Rhaenys is like, oh, well, we got to decide what we're going to do with Rhaenyra. Are we going to serve her or are we not? And then, Corlys is like, well, fuck them. They killed our son. Like, this is bullshit, And one of the things Rhaenys goes is like, there are dozens of men down there and every single one of them wants to go burn the kingdom down and go to war. She is the only one that is preaching restraint. And her restraint was, my job as protector of the realm or Lord of the Seven Kingdoms is actually to do what's best for the people.
I see.
And what's best for the people may be me giving my rule up to Alicent, right?
Yeah.
Even Alicent, after they crown Aegon, Otto Hightower's like, we got to go kill Rhaenyra. Like, let me send some knights. And she's like, no, we are going to present them terms.
Right.
Like these two women have this very like measured approach to the whole situation. Mm-hmm. And so that's like how it starts, like kind of under control. But as soon as Lucerys died and as soon as Jaehaerys died in this episode, it's no longer about politics. It's blood.
It's blood.
It is these two people are forever. They see red. All they want to do is kill him now.
One of them lost their son and one of them lost their grandson.
Yeah. Which makes it adds a layer to the war, which I find super fascinating.
As do I. Like I will tell you, even though I'm not like a huge Game of Thrones nut,
you're gonna get into it.
I have really enjoyed the plots, and even hearing you talk about Game of Thrones, like I truly enjoyed the plots. I really do.
You're gonna get more invested in this as time goes on, and I know you're gonna like you're the kind of guy that likes this kind of thing,
right?
I just had to warn Luke. Like I warned Luke. I was like, hey buddy, I'm like, all right, there's a really gruesome scene at the end. Just as soon as you see a knife to the queen's throat, just turn it off. I'll tell you what happens.
I know, and then I was like, well, I've got to watch it. Yeah, I was in the middle of my workday when I got that. I thought that was funny. I was like in between like 7 patients, and I was reading that, and I was like, all right, I'll see what that means later.
I was just looking out for you, buddy. All right, before we get out of here, I wanted to talk about the Acolyte for a minute. So
don't talk about the Acolyte. The Acolyte's trash. You're an idiot if you like the Acolyte. Dude, I'm kidding, obviously. We've liked the Acolyte. Oh, dude.
The negativity is
the
insane.
Negativity is unreal about the Acolyte. Oh my gosh. It is cracking me up.
I don't understand why so many people care so much.
So
I just don't get it.
So one of the things that we got in our comments from last week was like legitimately super, super funny. So if this commenter is listening, like round of applause, because they were like, what was he said he's like, if I put like, I think it was like 21 infants in the
house fire
in the stone fire is what he calls it. In the stone fire, then randomly, evenly dispersed is what he says, or she says, or whoever. He's like, I'm convinced that half of them would survive, and I thought that comment was absolutely hilarious. Other comments though, it was interesting because a lot of people were just like, if you like this, then you're stupid. Well, like that's not the greatest argument ever.
I'm trying to find the comment because it was so damn good. I'll have to look for it later. But
it was really funny. Yeah, whoever
said that, shout out. You made Luke and I both laugh very hard.
Yeah.
You
found it?
I did find it. It was
I texted it to you.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah. Just
I'll
grab
find
it. But like, so the Acolyte is set, as we know, about 100 years. Did you find it?
Yeah. I don't have the name because I cut it off, but they said, I'm convinced that 23 sleeping toddlers dispersed evenly throughout a stone temple would have at least a 50% survival rate. The way that was like very eloquent, I thought that was great.
That was an A+ comment.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so the Acolyte is set roughly 100 years before the Phantom Menace, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I've told you, I'm reading the Sith books. And I just started today my all-time favorite Star Wars book. It's not even close. It's Plagueis. It's the best Star Wars book. I don't.
When did you start reading it again or
today.
Listening? So it's what's so funny, Jay, is last night before I went to bed, I almost turned it on. I was just randomly. I was just like, oh yeah, Plagueis would be great. Just because I was trying to take my mind off some things, and so it's so funny that you started listening to it again.
Dude, it is it is immediately awesome.
Oh, I know. It starts off just
huge plot and world building. It's just
incredible.
It basically covers 1,000 years of history.
Oh, dude.
Like it's great. But the actual episode opens up with Plagueis, or the book opens up with Plagueis and Tenebris on this planet called Baldemnik, and they're looking for cortosis because of a tip that Tenebris got from somebody that actually was trying to screw him over, right?
What mining company was it?
Subtext mining. Yeah. So anyway, as they're kind of like introducing the characters, one of the things they say is like it is the before this series, it's like part 1, something, and then it goes 46 years before the reign of Palpatine.
Right.
So it's 46 years before Palpatine became named Chancellor, I would assume, or possibly the Emperor, but it doesn't matter. It's a few years, give or take.
Right. Yeah.
So
I think 4.
Yeah. Like even Max, I think, because Anakin, I think, ages a little bit. Like it might be 15, 16 years later, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but we're still talking somewhere between 46 to 60 years before Palpatine became either Emperor or Chancellor, something like that, right? So, one of the things they say is Plagueis had been, at that point, had been Tenebris's apprentice for the length of what the average human would live, is what they say in the book. So let's call that 75 years. So it's probably in the Star Wars universe is
call
longer.
It 90.
But let's call it 75, right? So we are talking about Plagueis being named a Darth, like Darth Plagueis, because as we know from Bane, like as soon as you become the apprentice, you get that name, right? So like Plagueis was one of the 2 Sith Lords as far back, potentially as, let's call it on the short end, 45 years plus 75, it's 130 years, right? At least 130 years before the Phantom Menace, Plagueis was one of the 2 Sith Lords that was alive. And so I'm really, really fascinated by where this is going, in the sense that, and I don't know why I didn't put this together before, but it was me reading Plagueis that helped me understand this, because it was a little nugget at the beginning that I just didn't remember. But basically, Plagueis, let's just put it strongly, according to Star Wars Legends, Plagueis is alive during the Acolyte.
And you can guarantee that he wouldn't let some pseudo-Sith run around under his watch and not put an end to it. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I hear you out.
So it's very possible that... Now, Plagueis is a Mun, which is a very tall, slender, giant-headed kind of like alien. Yeah.
Banking boy.
The banking clan. Every time I say Mun, I have to bring that up. But if you guys remember, the Muns, they're kind of like tall and slender, right? And we've seen our Sith apprentice guy, and he's definitely not. So
good point too.
So what I think would be really cool is what if Plagueis is the Sith master?
Yes, I think.
What if this Sith apprentice ends up dying, and then Plagueis has to, as a result of what happens in this show, whether it's in this season or multiple seasons, what if Plagueis then takes Palpatine on at a later date? Because Plagueis takes on Palpatine as basically a teenager.
Yeah, I like that take. I think if they were trying to create some longevity out of the Acolyte, that would be like a season 2 type phenomenon. Mm-hmm. But I totally follow you, and I do think that Plagueis could be the one. And one of the reasons for that, not just like the Legends timeline, because we know that some of that's legit and some of it's not, right? Mm-hmm. At least according to Disney. To us, it's legit. But you and I also have a very strong suspicion that Leslie, who's directing this, has brushed up on some Legends material. Yes. Just some of the themes that we've noticed, which to everyone who's hating on the Acolyte, like, maybe read Bane and see if you still hate the Acolyte.
Or maybe give it more than 3 episodes before you decide a show sucks.
Yeah, seriously. Like, we get it. Like, the Burning Stone thing, that's rough. But it's not nearly as bad as lobbing laser fire, which we saw, in the sequels. So, anyways. But with that being said, Jason and I think that she's probably brushed up on some Legends material.
Yeah.
It would totally make sense that she brushed up on Plagueis leading into this, especially if she's creating a story about the Sith, right? So I totally think that that's plausible.
Yeah, I think that it like, because I keep trying to kind of like conceptualize an idea of like how this Sith could like appear and then disappear, right? and or I should say appear and then become legend again as the Jedi kind
the
of
unknown.
like as they kind of like go back to not believing they exist, right? And like one of the things that would make sense is like at this point theoretically they would not even know about the rule of two.
Yeah.
So like it like I'm just curious to see how they tie this all together. And my thing is like I think the timeline makes sense to drop a Darth Plagueis. Like, I think it'd be fucking so cool if, like, they went through the whole season and everything kind of panned out centering around the apprentice, and then, like, the very last moment of the episode was some sort of Plagueis drop. That would be such a power move.
Dude, and you can complicate the plot with that too, and this is just a wild guess, and it's probably not going to happen because there's really not a reason why it should. But like, could you imagine if Plagueis found out that his apprentice was like essentially having open castings, and then found out about that and killed him because of it? He's like, the Jedi know about you, and then he kills him because of it. Like, that would be badass.
No, so I've been thinking a lot about this because like Palpatine killed Plagueis in his sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Plagueis killed Tenebris when Tenebris got fooled by subtext mining, and an explosion went off in this mine. Plagueis saw Tenebris protecting himself and the ship from falling rock, and then Plagueis was like, it just pulled all the rock down.
It's one of the greatest Sith scenes ever.
Exactly. And when you go back to Darth Bane and Xana had like a straight up one-on-one conflict with Darth Cognis watching on the side.
When they were both powerful.
Exactly. And you know what I find kind of fascinating is like, it actually makes, because, you know, Darth Bane, like Plagueis actually said, there's a conversation that Plagueis and Tenebris have after Tenebris gets nearly killed. He's like laying on the ground. And Plagueis is basically like, Tenebris goes like, well, better this way than in combat, because Tenebris hadn't put two and two together yet and realized that Plagueis was the one that killed him.
Right.
And then Plagueis literally says like, well, Darth Bane probably would have preferred it that way. Like, he straight up says that to him. And so like, what I find fascinating is like, it actually makes more sense to me to do it the Plagueis and Palpatine way. And the reason why, because Plagueis actually says, he's like him getting fooled by subtext mining and not sniffing out the situation before Plagueis killed him was evidence of the fact. He literally says it was evidence that the Bith had become sluggish and expendable.
Right.
And what I find fascinating about that is like the Sith shifted their attention towards subterfuge.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's actually more important for you to be alert and aware of like all of what's happening around you.
Your apprentice,
and
including your apprentice.
Yeah, and surviving sneak attacks than the martial prowess thing. Because the Sith were never going to beat the Jedi through martial prowess. So like, I actually kind of like the idea of like Plagueis and Palpatine having overthrown their masters by catching them slipping.
Right.
Because Plagueis gets drunk and is celebrating becoming Coach Hansler.
Dude, what an idiot.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That like, him of all people should know. He wrote the book on it.
Yeah, he wrote the fucking book on it, man.
Yeah. No. And we've talked about this during previous episodes, right? When we broke down Plagueis, it is so cool when the book talks about how Tenebris does calculations in his head about how like it would be improbable for that not to have been Plagueis to have actually like tried to kill him.
Yeah.
And then it dawns on him, and then he's not mad that his apprentice tried to kill him. He's mad that the ship got ruined and that the Sith were gonna die.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the greatest Sith conversation. And then Plagueis is like, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out.
That was the part. Tenebris makes a little comment about how he destroyed the ship, and Plagueis is like, all right, enough of you. Karate chops him on the neck.
He karate chops and snaps his neck.
It was so funny.
It's great. It's great.
All right, we got to get out of here because Luke's got to go pick up his sister-in-law at the airport. So we're going to call it a night. But as always, we sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting the show and supporting us. We're going to be back tomorrow night.
Yeah.
With another beer episode.
Yeah.
We're going to have a beer and we can and talk about the Acolyte. Actually, I'm off tomorrow night. So are you working tomorrow night?
No.
Oh, so maybe you can come over and watch it together and we can just record right after.
That sounds
like
good.
a plan?
Yep.
Cool.
That sounds great.
All right. As always, we appreciate you guys. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Thanks a lot.